Welcome to the Live or Alone podcast, the podcast where two nerds who consume a whole lot of horror discuss their favorite pieces of horror media. From movies and TV shows to video games, novels, and everything in between. Because this is a spooky world, and we're just thriving in it. I'm your host, Sarah, the survivalist in your slasher friend group that will put up a lasting fight, but inevitably die because only the final girl can survive.
And I'm your host, Ian, the fearless fighter in your slasher friend group that tries to save the day, but ends up dying because physical strength just doesn't win in horror.
In today's episode, we're talking about a true crime meets horror movie in one of the most talked about movies of 2024, and we finally saw it, Longlegs. So, brief synopsis of the movie if you are one of the few that haven't seen it yet. An FBI agent is assigned to an unsolved serial killer case that takes an unexpected turn, revealing evidence of the occult and the agent's personal connection to the killer. Alright, but before we begin, we're going to do a round of trivia, Creepin' It Real. This one has a lot, but I only pulled out 3 things, so feel free to do like a deep dive into all of the lore, because we did find some cool articles when we were, right after we saw the movie. But, are you ready?
Yes, let's go.
Okay, question number 1 is a true or false. True or false? This is Nicolas Cage's first and only role as a serial killer.
False.
No.
Oh, shit, for real?
This is his first, his last, and it will be his only because he says he does not like to play serial killers and he doesn't like to play characters who hurt other people, which I think is interesting because I feel like
that's my boy.
Did he not play any characters that hurt people?
Yeah, remember in Face Off, he was like the bad guy.
So I'm like, what do you mean? But I get it. Serial killers is a whole other level. But
the guy got older now, so he's like,
I'm done.
I mean, he can pick and choose whatever he wants. He's a classic.
He's Nicolas Cage. Yeah. Okay, next question. The director has a horror icon parent. Who? Who is the parent?
Oh, so that's true.
It's true.
Can you tell me the director's name?
No, it's gonna ruin it.
Oh shit! Is it somebody from Alfred Hitchcock movies?
Yes. How the hell did you know that?
Is it Psycho?
Yeah. What the hell? You looked up the trivia.
I didn't. Is it the main guy? What's his name? Norman Bates?
Yeah.
Oh shit! For real?
It's Anthony Perkins, and the director's name is Oz Perkins. That's why I couldn't say anything.
Wait, that's the son?
That's his son.
Oh shit! That's crazy.
What? Right?
Wow.
Isn't that wild that you come out however many years later and you pull out like a really good horror movie?
I had no idea it was. I just kept.
How did you? That was way too specific. You didn't even make a mistake.
I didn't look it up. I don't know. I guess I just put like the years. I was like, let me see how long it takes to be a director.
That was quick of you.
The nepotism and I was just like, let me see. Get on the thing.
All right, y'all. We're gonna have to fact check Ian and check his IMDb history.
I did.
That's crazy. The next question is a true or false question. True or false? Maika, I hope I'm saying her name right. Maika Monroe was completely left in the dark about Nicolas Cage's transformation.
I'm gonna say true. They do that shit a lot in movies.
Yeah.
So that they get surprised and it's organic.
Yeah. That's a really good point, and you're absolutely right. This is a really cool tidbit that a lot of people probably know if you're on social, but fun fact, y'all, Ian is not actively on social media. I run all of the social media, so
my secrets.
This is going to be interesting to Ian in particular. But during filming, Maika Monroe wore a microphone on her shirt, which, along with her dialogue, was sensitive enough that it had managed to capture her heartbeat as well. Monroe's initial resting rate was 76 beats per minute, and when the scene ended, which is the scene that she first sees Nicolas Cage in his character, it had spiked to a rate of 170 beats per minute. So 76 to 170. The sound of her panicked heartbeat was then used in a final promotion trailer prior to the movie's release. Genius marketing.
Wait, what the fuck? So that's her heart.
That's her real heartbeat and her real reaction to seeing Nicolas Cage for the first time.
So wait a second, she put a microphone on purpose? They put a microphone on purpose on her?
Well, she's probably always got a mic on when she's filming, right?
Oh, to talk.
Yeah.
And was it so close that her heart was like beating, like it was listening to her heart? Wow.
It was, I guess they're saying it was so sensitive that it picked up her heart rate.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. They should do that in every movie now.
How cool is it?
They should patent that idea.
How cool is it that they caught that? And then they were like, you know what? Marketing.
Yo, let's patent that idea.
I don't think we can, but a very, very cool idea. I'm sure we're gonna see a new era in modern day horror where they use this kind of tactic to make you like real life type of stuff.
I mean, if you do that shit right now and market that shit, and you sell that shit and tell everybody, like you get a wristband or something that gets your pulse, and then when you watch a horror movie, like it's a horror pulse. Think about it.
But
Think
like,
about it.
What would you use that for?
You put it on whenever you see a scary movie. You're like,
but
oh,
like,
shit.
what would you need that for?
Maybe, yeah, you're right.
Right.
So it would just be like a, like a.
It's
novelty.
great for marketing.
Yeah,
fantastic for marketing, and we've actually seen an example of really cool, realistic marketing as well with that Smile movie, where they had people out in baseball games wearing the mask. Anyway, marketing A+ these days. But let's move on to the actual conversation. So why did we pick this piece of content? I should start by saying that people might be confused about this episode coming out sooner than expected, because in our last episode we said that we were going to be talking about the Indian Lake novel series, but we switched things up and we're putting Longlegs in now because we just saw Longlegs over the weekend and we wanted to get this episode out as soon as possible because I know a lot of y'all are watching it, have seen it, or are about to watch it because it just went streaming on, I believe it was Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know it's going to be fresh in everyone's head, so we figured we would do an episode right now. It's also fresh in our head, so we wanted to get all of our thoughts into an episode as soon as possible. And yeah, it was...
Spoilers.
There's going to be spoilers, so just keep that in mind.
Yeah,
but,
so listen to this after you watch the movie.
Or if you're too scared,
you can listen to it.
You can
now.
just listen to us. But, do your thing. We watched it very recently with a group of friends, and I have to say it was a really good one to watch with friends because there's just so much going on. It's like a massive puzzle piece and puzzle pieces within the puzzle piece. And so it was really fun to kind of have that conversation live while watching it and kind of theorize with our friends.
Yeah, and like whenever you miss something, you go back, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, there was just so much to kind of like, wait, what? And this happened? And what does that mean? There were so many layers to this movie.
Yeah.
Which kind of segues into what we like about the movie. I like the fact that there were so many cool different layers to this movie. It wasn't just a singular storyline with a singular theme. There was a lot going on.
Yeah. Sorry.
I had to burp too.
Yeah. There was a lot going on, and at first, I mean, we're gonna dive deeper into it. But when I first saw it, I was kind of like freaked out. Like the movie kind of freaked me out.
What freaked you out about it?
It was like really weird, and it was like, like those quiet ass, not like, maybe like Hereditary. Like you remember when her head got chopped off, and it was all quiet, and you're just like, okay. But it was like that, but nothing was like, not like stuff was going on, but it was like, what the fuck? Like
nothing,
it's just
like,
quiet.
Nothing directly in your face.
Is that gonna record?
Oh shit, it's been recording the whole time? Yes. Nothing was like, the horror wasn't directly in your face. It was very subtle and uncomfortable in many parts. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, and it was just like, I don't know if I was like waiting for something to happen. But like some shit would just happen out of nowhere like crazy.
Yeah.
But not like shocking, but not like in a corny way.
Yeah.
In like a weird way, like when somebody would get shot in the head, you're just like, wait, what? Like out of nowhere. And you saw the gun too, you're just like, you didn't expect them to do that.
Yeah, in the beginning. Yeah, you're so right. It was very unsettling, and I've come to really love those kinds of movies that
because it's like real life.
Yeah, it's unsettling, and the tension and the quiet and the silent, like the empty space where there's no sound at all, is very realistic. So it plays into your fears all the more. Because you usually, whenever there's a horror movie and there's like dead space, or is it dead air or dead space? I don't know what the phrase is. But there's usually like a score happening, or the characters are doing something so much that you're following along. But here you see a lot of nothing happening, and that makes you super anxious. Like, what's gonna happen and when?
And it's like, they didn't make her like like how a woman, like if something happens, they start screaming and shit. Like, like you saw, you knew that she was FBI, even though she's kind of weird. she like somebody would get shot and she would just be like she would like cover her mouth and just look like oh, holy shit, that just happened. Now let's figure out how to fix it.
That's a good point, because when we were watching it, we were like, why is she not showing emotion? Why is she not being like very vocal or expressive? But she is an FBI agent, and she's been trained to not react in the way that, say, you and I would react. But also, I think the heavy breathing was also a good tactic, right? Like, that's the one thing that you saw from her whenever she got scared. She would breathe really heavily. That's all you heard was just panting.
She kind of looked like she was fearless, but also she, when it was time for her to do emotions, like I like the part when she was like, "Do I have to?" Yeah. Like she was questioning, like, I don't really need to do this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, do I have to do this? Yeah. So it was fucking like that's where her emotion is. So she like she has a character. Absolutely. Like at first I was like she's just like really quiet and like what the fuck. It kind of freaked me out, but then I was like, oh, so that's a personality. She's
definitely a complex character. Like she had a lot going on. She had a lot of baggage. She had a lot of trauma, and then also she was directly correlated to the storyline. Like not only was she trying to solve the murder and trying to catch the killer, but she was literally connected to the killer, which was such an interesting and unique take, which is one of the things that I really loved about this movie, is that there's a lot of unique takes here. It's not like we've never seen this before, but I really like the fact that she was connected to the killer and she was also like the protagonist. And I also really liked the cool balance between a true crime movie. Like, say, when we were watching it, it really reminded me of Zodiac, which was a really true crime forward movie because it's about a real life true crime. But it also had a nice balance of a traditional horror. So there was Silence of the Lambs vibes going on, and that had like a lot of traditional horror in it, but also true crime. So and we did actually read some articles saying like those movies were definitely influences on this one, and you can see it really well. And it was done really well. Like it wasn't done badly.
And the way that I like the way that he was singing too. That shit was added to the
oh my god, the music was so good. I swear, it was a group of 4 of us watching. We all kind of froze at the singing parts, and we were more in shock of that than anything else, I think. Yeah. Because it was funny, first of all. And also, he sang really well. Yeah. But like, I was telling Ian this when we were like after we watched the movie. I was like, it reminds you of those really awkward people in your life that, like, they stand in front of you and they kind of take control of the conversation, and then it's so awkward and you feel like you can't move. Like, you have to stay there and experience the awkwardness. And that's 100% how I felt.
Yeah, you know what else was cool? When, right in the beginning of the film, there was a quote and it said T-Rex. Yeah. And nobody knew who it was, and I was like, that's T-Rex. That has to be T-Rex, the band. Yeah. And then a couple seconds later, they're playing one of T-Rex's songs. So I'm like, see, I told you. Yeah, yeah, I like that. That's from the 70s, and I was like, shit.
I like that. I like that a lot. I did also want to say there is like really direct influences from those movies, from Zodiac and Silence of the Lambs, for example. There's like the code language, and as soon as I saw the code language, I was like, that's straight up Zodiac.
Yeah. So that was cool. Yeah.
There were some more like subtle influences, but they were also really direct. But once again, they did them all really well, I think. It wasn't cheesy.
They didn't dwell too much on it, like, oh, this is all code right here. How are we going to figure this out?
Yeah.
She knew how to figure it out.
It's like they took the influences and they made something completely new with it, as opposed to being like, you saw Zodiac, you get this, right? Like, it wasn't too much on the nose, if that makes sense.
And then, like, they would cut scenes because they knew that the audience was smart. Like, you would see her, like, looking at something, and then the next minute she fell asleep. So you're like, all right, so what happened during this? How did she fall asleep? Yeah. And you're like, she fell asleep. It happens.
Yeah, definitely.
Because she's not sleeping. Yeah. She's like not sleeping at home, and then the whole movie was like dark, like really really dark, like fall the whole time. Yeah. So I was like, this shit is dark.
It kind of, this is gonna sound strange, but it kind of felt comforting. I feel like I've talked about this in another episode, but it was kind of cozy because it was like you felt like you were in the fall the entire time, like you're saying. They used filters and stuff too.
Yeah, it was like was it snow? Like it was winter, kind of like winter. Like you saw snow.
I think it was Christmas. Oh remember, yeah, it was Christmas decorations.
Yeah. But they didn't really push that Christmas shit on you.
And where were they? Because there was no snow. It wasn't like cold, like how we.
Seattle, I think. Oh. Because I looked up. He was talking about the Mariners, but I assumed he was in Seattle because you talk about the Mariners.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that probably checks.
Yeah, because why were you talking about another team when you were in...
Yeah. That kind of segues into some of the dislikes that I have. But before we jump into that, I did want to mention the devil popping up in random subtle scenes.
Oh, yeah, shit. So let me, sorry, I'll cut you off. But for some reason, I did not see this fucking devil.
Yeah.
I think he popped up like 12 times maybe, or
maybe?
Yeah, so there's a shadow in the back, and sometimes you see horns and shit. I only saw it twice, but I didn't see any horns. So when I saw the pictures, I was like, what the fuck? I gotta see this movie again. Yeah,
we should probably rewatch it, because the first time we were like all live reacting with in a group setting, but there were subtle details like that I tend to always love to see in horror movies, when they put little things in the corner and you kind of have to rewatch the movie to get those things, because it's actually extremely terrifying when you think about the fact that you missed that when you were watching it and you thought that you were watching it very closely. But yeah, there's a lot of scenes where the devil is kind of just hiding in corners or sometimes blatantly right behind characters. And yet, Ian still didn't see it. And Ian wasn't the only one. There were other people we were watching it with who did not see it. I was like, did you see that? And people we were watching it with were like, no. I'm like, what do you mean? It was right there.
So wait, did the devil open her door in her house? Or did Longlegs...
Good question.
And also, what I still don't understand. Like, I know it's stupid at the end of the movie. I was like, I didn't see any long legs.
Oh my
but
God.
I'm trying to figure out, is Longlegs the devil? Like, not Nicolas Cage.
It's definitely Nicolas Cage.
And why would he call himself Longlegs?
There was one line that he said, and he said Longlegs, and so it kind of stuck. And I kind of think that the whole reason why they're calling him Longlegs is because that's how we name serial killers, right?
Yeah.
It'll be one little subtle detail, and we just take it because it's something that's catchy. So I think that's what he was trying to play with here. Because if you think of a movie called Longlegs, it's also a good marketing tactic. Like, what's Longlegs? We need to go see what that means.
Yeah.
And keeping it subtle like that, I think, was kind of smart, too. They had a lot of great marketing tactics in this one.
I would think, like, Longlegs would be like a spider or something.
Right.
So that I thought it was going to be like, they're going to play off like it. Because remember, it was like it was a spider.
Yeah.
But I was like, why are they calling him Longlegs? And I guess... Like what you were saying, a serial killer, just to be like a catchy...
Just a catchy name, yeah. And, I forgot what I was going to say.
And to go viral?
To go viral, definitely. Just to entice you, to be like, what is that? Like, I need to watch it and find out. Because, this is what I was going to say. Before we watched this movie, I didn't want to look anything up because I didn't want to get any spoilers. But I thought it was going to be a much more traditional horror due to, like... there's like a monster perhaps Nicolas Cage is playing as, or the phrase long legs seems like a traditional horror, like you're saying with spiders. And then we start watching the movie and we're like, wait a second, this is pretty much a true crime story.
Which is good.
Yeah, so it definitely was a twist, which is cool.
Yeah. And
fun.
And I would say the horror would be when the people get possessed and start killing their families. And they're like smiling. Basically they were all praying to Satan, or Satan took control of them, and it would always be the father for some reason. The father killing the kids and the wife is just taking it because they're gonna get to meet their Lord and Savior.
Well, it's not really. There were some people that were worshiping the devil here, but we have to remember that by the end of this movie isn't about, horrible people just being horrible. Yeah. There was a complexity to it, and we realized by the end of it, like, the mother who, kind of kickstarted this whole system with Longlegs and the devil was doing it to protect her daughter from dying. Yeah. And so she was killing other people for the quote-unquote greater good of keeping her daughter alive. So it was like, I'm a mother, I'm a good mother, I'm taking care of my mother because I prevented her from dying because I did X, Y, and Z. So it's so much more complex than... people worshiping the devil. There was the motherhood element. There was this whole complex relationship with faith that kind of was airing between Christianity and then, like, devil worshiping, which are kind of, two sides of a coin. And then there was the serial killer element, and there was, like, the birthday symbolic. There was so much shit. There's so many layers to this movie, and I love every bit of it. but it's definitely not just like devil worshipping.
I like how they didn't push too much of the Christianity. It did show you the cross though, but they never like ran with it. Like, this is the whole movie. We gotta get a priest.
Yeah, it wasn't like a religious horror like The First Omen, for sure. Yeah. But they did show the really like trickling traumatic effects of following a religion in a toxic way, and how that can influence a person, and it can carry over through generational trauma. It can carry over into being a freaking serial killer. So like, it was really loaded when it came to the faith, but it wasn't a religious horror, for sure.
Even her mom was wearing the nun clothes. It was like a brown, like a pilgrim kind of shit.
Yeah,
it wasn't
like
the
ironic.
black. It wasn't like the black nun, stereotypical.
The black and white.
Yeah, it was brown with like a light brown.
Yeah, and that leads me to the very last like before we get into the dislikes, because I do have a couple of them. The final reveal of Longlegs, who he is, where he's been, how he's been able to like continue killing people, his accomplice being the mother of the FBI agent, all of this stuff. The final reveal of him simply living in the FBI agent's childhood home the entire time, in plain sight. His car was literally parked right in the front the entire time, and we saw it. As the viewer, we saw it. That was the craziest thing, the final reveal.
But also her mother kept telling her if she said her prayers, remember that?
Yeah.
And then Lee was like, our friend was like, what if the prayers are devil prayers? But we never figured that out.
Yeah.
What kind of prayers was it? But at the same time, Longlegs was using a Bible.
Yes.
So that's where it goes back to like The First Omen, where the devil is the devil is a part of Christianity. So his book is the Bible also.
Right.
And he uses, I'm sure maybe we should get the Satanic Bible and discover it. And what am I saying? Look at the Satanic Bible and analyze that shit. To be continued.
It would be a lot, but I think, like we mentioned before, it's Christianity and devil worshipping is like two sides of the same coin, right? You have to believe in one if you believe in the other. And we had this conversation actually when we were talking about The First Omen.
Yeah.
So it's like, you kind of have to believe in all of it if you're looking at it from the perspective of these movies, right?
How about we do an episode where we talk about the Bible and we talk about the Satanic Bible? Oh shit.
That might rile up some people. Maybe not our viewers. Maybe our viewers' parents or grandparents or something. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot, and this movie unpacks it. By the way, if you're watching us, the lighting is absolutely horrid, and Ian looks kind of bit like the devil in the movie at this point.
Thank you. I tried.
Luckily, I'm sure you can actually see him, though. Unlike him, he was not able to see it in the movie. By the way, just a side note on those, when you're watching it and you're looking for the devil, the devil does disappear after a couple of seconds. He's not just standing there the whole time. So that's probably another reason why you and other people didn't spot him at first.
But also, you remember when they had one more thing before. You remember when they had the doll and then they covered the doll with the veil and it was dark? Was the devil there? Like I had a feeling that was the devil because you saw the eyes and you saw it moving. The dolls can't move.
Yeah, but that was only one example of the doll making. Like, the devil was under that veil, but it was only in one instance. Not every single time a doll was made, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because I was just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Because it was like fucking my head up because I thought it was a doll or I thought it was an actual child because it's the same exact height, and I was like...
It confused us at first because the scenes kind of cut across... The image of the devil under the veil is cut across several scenes. So it's like you have to think about it in retrospect and then you piece it together like, oh, that was the devil that time. It wasn't the doll. And it's only one iterance of the devil, if that makes sense.
They want you to see the movie again and pause it.
Well,
like, oh shit.
They want you to be thinking. They want you to be paying attention to the little details if you want to, catch on. A lot of people will be confused, but maybe that means you should watch it more than once. I think we should. But moving on to some dislikes, I will say that there were some scenes, and I think the scenes particularly between the FBI agents, there's more than one agent in this movie, that were very theatrical and very, staged almost, to a point where I felt like I was watching, like a show, like a live show. Like, the script was so...
stereotypical?
Well, it was stereotypical, but it was so, perfect and curated.
Yeah.
That, like, you just knew what one person was going to say after the other thing. Maybe
Which part was that?
Like, in the beginning, when we're seeing the dynamic between the two FBI agents, the lead on the case, and then Maika Monroe. I forgot her name in this movie. But their dynamic was just
Lee.
so...
Her name was Lee.
Oh, it was Lee? For real? That's funny. Yeah. Like, their dynamic was very cheesy. Like, she would be, like, the underdog in the situation, and he was, like, the very machismo, annoying, controlling person, and she would do something silly, and he would be like, okay, rookie. Like, you know, it was so freaking corny, and then he would drink, and she would have to watch him and take care of him as him being her superior. All sorts of weird, like, I don't know, kind of cheesy.
You mean, like, when they thought that she had, like, psychic powers, so that he would be like, so how come this happened here? And, like, testing her?
Yeah, and she would be like, I don't know, and he'd be like,
well, this is why it happened.
Uh-huh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, it was just very corny cop, if that makes sense.
Oh, like, like, their dynamic together, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, like, I didn't really care for his ass too much.
If they thought that we were supposed to, like, feel a relationship between the two of them, it wasn't happening. Not even in the slightest.
I remember at one point he was like, you're gonna go talk to your mom. And then it just cut to her driving to her mom. I'm like...
Or, like, when she was in the room with Longlegs, and then Longlegs, like, bashes his head and kills himself, and then she comes out, and he's, like, screaming at her, because it's her fault that he did that, and nobody else came in, even though they were watching her from outside the interrogation room.
Because I'm pretty sure this was the 90s, because I saw my man Billy C. on the wall.
Yeah.
So, Bill Clinton on the wall. So I'm pretty sure they had the CCTV.
They definitely, at least the two-sided mirror.
Exactly, and why would you leave...
Or glass.
Why would you leave a rookie FBI agent there without somebody by the door?
Yeah.
So in case he banged his head once, you would jump in and stop.
Like, even if you did do all of these things, even if you did let her go in there by herself, he banged his head in, like, 5 or 6 times. You could have came in after the third one.
The first one.
Even the first one. And then he was yelling at her, like, super corny, like, you just ruined the case, blah, blah, blah. Like, what? That's just not realistic.
Yeah, that part was realistic. Because I'm sure he was a high priority suspect, so you don't just let him in. Yeah. If something happens, you're always looking at least through the door to see what's happening.
Yeah, it just felt like they were trying to force certain...
They were trying to force him to get killed.
No, I'm trying to say, like, they were trying to force him to have stereotypical dialogue, and in order for him to have that dialogue, certain events had to happen. But it was corny because he said it. He said, like, all the things.
Yeah, because then at the end, remember when he killed his family and shit? When he came in, he told her, he's like, sit down.
Yeah,
so it's like she was gonna listen to him anyway because that's her boss.
Yeah, maybe it was just him.
Maybe it was just him.
Maybe it was just him.
Yeah.
But I did also want to say, because you mentioned Bill Clinton, like, there was a framed photo of Bill Clinton and there was a framed photo of Reagan in certain parts to kind of identify the time or time era. And I thought that was a little bit too forced. Like, we were talking about another movie, The First Omen, where it was very natural to figure out the time era. And it was, like, kind of sporadic throughout the entire movie through different scenes. But in this one, it was far more forced. Like, the freaking photo of Bill Clinton. Yeah. And having the scene constantly show Bill Clinton to let you know that this is the 90s. You know, like, we get it. We got it. There can be other indicators that it's the 90s or another decade, you know?
Yeah.
I think we could wrap things up because we've gotten through everything. Do you have a question for the audience?
Have you ever experienced a serial killer close to your town?
Okay.
What do you think?
Let's go with it.
Because remember us?
I know, yeah, that's what I was thinking. I would be like, that's not really common, but, you know, here we are, right? Let's go with it.
Have you ever met a serial killer or spoke to one?
Bonus points if you've met one. Bonus points if you've sent him an email and you've worked with him. Let us know. I'm saying him because we all know most serial killers are men. But anyway, let us know. Answer the prompt on social media. You can find us at Live or Alone Pod on Instagram, and we always do a weekly discussion post that has this prompt. So as you're listening to us right now, head over there and let us know. It's going to be an interesting set of comments if we do get some comments on this one. But thank you so much for hanging out with us today. If you like this episode and you want to hear more from us, do us a favor and check us out on social media. Give us a follow. We are on Instagram, like I said, TikTok, and YouTube at Live or Alone Pod. And tune in next Wednesday because we will very likely jump back into our, regular schedule, which should be the Indian Lake Trilogy by Stephen Graham Jones. But for now, we'll see you in the kitchen with a knife.